A diver glides up to a man lying on a ledge in Lake Tahoe and reaches out to check if he's alive. He isn't. He's been gone for 17 years. The wetsuit is still zipped, the weight belt still buckled, the air tank still strapped to his back, and his face looks like it happened only yesterday. No lake is supposed to do that to a person. Tahoe does. The water runs so cold and so deep that it can hold someone almost untouched for decades, long after a warmer lake would have handed back nothing but bone. That single fact fed a century of rumors about what sits on the floor of one of the clearest lakes in the country. Old legends, lost divers, things stranger than either. So what's actually down there? Donald Windecker was 44, a former city planner from Reno, married with 2 kids. On a July afternoon in 1994, he went diving off Rubicon Point with a friend. Something went wrong near the end of the dive, and he started to sink. His partner grabbed for him, burned through his air trying to hold on, and finally had to surface alone. Windecker kept going down. Search crews combed the area for days and came up with nothing. 17 years went by. His wife and kids had long since stopped waiting for an answer. Then, in the summer of 2011, a recreational diver checking out a sunken boat near Rubicon Point spotted a shape wedged in a rock crevice, 265 feet down. It was Windecker, still in the gear he'd worn the day he vanished. He was found. At least 4 other divers who vanished in that same water never were. A robot with a mechanical claw brought him to the surface, and dental records confirmed it was him. The El Dorado County Sheriff's Office handled the recovery. Sergeant Jim Byers told reporters the remains were in remarkable condition, and Lieutenant Brian Golmitz, also working the case, said there was no sign of foul play. Byers figured an exam would show a heart attack, a stroke, or just a man who ran out of air. So why did he hold together for so long? Water at that depth sits near 35 degrees year-round. Cold that deep slows decay to almost nothing. The pressure traps gases inside the tissue, so a body that would bloat and rise in a warm lake stays put where it lands. Darkness shuts down the chemistry that breaks organic matter apart. Tahoe is nearly sterile on top of that. Granite surrounds the lake and adds almost no nutrients to the water, and the deep water only trades places with the surface once every 4 to 7 years. Drop something past 1,000 feet here, and the cold, the dark, and the pressure work together to keep it almost exactly as it was. For most of the lake's history, nobody could go down and check what was actually sitting at that depth. So the bottom filled up with stories instead. Those stories grew out of something real. Organized crime had a real presence around Tahoe during the casino years. Frank Sinatra bought the Cal Neva Lodge on the North Shore in 1960, a resort built so precisely on the state line that the border ran straight through the swimming pool. Marilyn Monroe stayed there. So did the Kennedys. So it turned out, did organized crime. Federal investigators later concluded Sinatra was fronting the lodge for Sam Giancana. Giancana ran the Chicago outfit, and Nevada had barred him from every casino in the state. The Cal Neva even kept tunnels underneath so people could move through without anyone noticing. When agents caught Giancana on the property 3 years later, the state pulled Sinatra's gaming license. Those real disappearances are why the legend stuck. From there, the rumors only grew bigger. Locals swore Tahoe held victims of organized crime, weighted down and frozen in the cold. Some claimed it held Chinese railroad laborers from the 1860s. Then one story became bigger than all the others combined. Jacques Cousteau, the story goes, rode a submarine down to the floor of Tahoe, came back up pale and shaken, locked the footage away, and warned that the world wasn't ready for what he'd seen. Cousteau never said that. He never even dove Tahoe. The scientist who founded the UC Davis Research Center on the lake, Charles Goldman, has named the obvious hole in the tale. Cousteau made his living by filming what he found and selling it to television. Something like that would have aired in prime time, not vanished into a vault somewhere. Someone invented the quote, and it stuck anyway, because it fit a lake where that kind of secret felt believable. For decades, nobody could settle the argument, simply because nobody could reach the bottom to look. Then the water started dropping. Years of thin Sierra snowfall pulled Tahoe down toward its natural rim, then below it, and kept going. The lake hit its lowest level in years. As the shoreline retreated, it gave back things that had sat underwater for generations. Tires, bottles, rusted metal nobody could even name anymore. Colin West had already started looking beneath the surface by then. He grew up near the lake and worked as a filmmaker, and a shoot overseas put the scale of ocean plastic right in front of him. That's what sent him home wondering what was sitting at the bottom of his own backyard. The question turned into a non-profit, Clean Up the Lake, which he launched in 2019. 2 years later, his divers set out to cover the entire 72 miles of shoreline. Close to 25,000 pieces of debris came up, more than 25,000 pounds of it, down to roughly 70 feet. More than 4,000 aluminum cans, lampposts, engine blocks. Over 400 objects are too heavy to lift on a single dive. The shallows alone were full of debris, but scuba gear could only reach so far. The deep lake, the part the legends were really about, stayed dark and untouched. Settling the old argument for good meant building something that could go where no diver could. On September 5th, 2025, the Restoring the Lake Depths Foundation, working with the Tahoe Fund, sent down a custom robot called Deep Emerald. It became the first camera to ever reach Tahoe's true floor. Getting it ready took more than 20 test runs, some of which ended with the robot back on deck, cracked and leaking. The finished build carried 8 thrusters, hard white lights, a sharp camera, and a fiber optic tether stretching nearly 2,000 feet, so the crew could watch every foot of the descent in real time. Lindsay Kopf sat at the controls. The project was hers, and she'd never thought of herself as much of a gamer. But flying that robot down past 1,600 feet changed her mind. She later called it the best video game she'd ever played. More than 3,000 people watched the dive live, with tens of thousands more tuning in over the following days. For a century, the bottom of Tahoe had been a blank space every fear rushed to fill, and everyone watching expected the same thing. The cars, the frozen wise guys, the missing railroad laborers, the remains the stories had promised for generations. None of it was there. The lights swept across a flat, silty plain, dark and still. The sediment dimpled into shapes the team compared to a field of stars. No monster, nothing waiting in the dark. Sudeep Chandra, a limnologist at the University of Nevada, Reno, said the floor was ordinary sediment, carried in by streams and settled out of the water over time. The body question came up too, and Amy Berry, who runs the Tahoe Fund, answered it flatly. In all their dives, her team had never found a single one. The bottom of Lake Tahoe, the place that had haunted the region for 100 years, came up empty. That emptiness has a grim explanation. More than 200 million crayfish crawl across this lake, picking clean anything soft enough to reach. The cold can hold a body, but the crayfish rarely let it. Windecker only lasted because a tight crevice and a sealed wetsuit kept them off him.